I upset some people a few weeks ago. So I wrote a piece for Medium. It was quite a long piece. Not like me to go on, is it? Babbling away. Anyway, I wrote this piece and it was questions for Jamie Corbyn supporters. What it did is it went into the huge challenges that have to be overcome if a Labour Party under Jamie Corbyn is to succeed. Lots of people welcomed it. Lots of Jamie Corbyn supporters thought it was very important because they felt that these are issues that do need to be overcome. Some people do think if you disagree with them, there must be an ulterior motive. They can't just think something. I don't know, career, money, sold out, bribed by someone, got at by somebody, the Illuminati. I'm joking, no one said that. But, you do get people challenging motives rather than the actual substance. Jeremy Corbyn's going to be re-elected as Labour leader next month. I think that is absolutely almost certain. The country's focus, partly the media's focus, is on the leadership because of the leadership contest. So now is the time to answer those questions. I think a snap general election is not inevitable, but is a very distinct possibility indeed. As things stand, Labour, in my opinion, would be not wiped out, because that means there wouldn't be any MPs at all, but would face its worst result since 1931.
Isn't this the worst possible timing to be doing this?
A chunk of the Parliamentary Labour Party has behaved terribly. To choose a moment of national crisis,
Independence Day!
Brexit, when all the focus should have been on the Conservatives and their own internal divisions and all the rest, to choose that time to launch a coup, and rather than doing the normal thing where you have a leadership challenge, to actually do rolling resignations, which shut down the workings of the opposition, I think was absolutely outrageous and has caused huge anger. 80% of the Parliamentary Labour Party, of course, 172 MPs, notoriously voted no confidence in Jamie Corbyn's leadership. Now, that has to be reversed. It's in the Parliamentary Labour Party's interest to actually overturn the vote of no confidence, because if there is a general election, a snap general election, in which Labour does very badly, a lot of Labour members will just go, well, that's the Parliamentary Labour Party's fault. They screwed everything up. It's sabotage. And then Jamie Corbyn would just stay leader, so pointless. So actually, if they are cooperative, if they stop yelling and being angry at the leadership, and they try and make it work, then after a general election in which, if Labour were defeated badly, then they could just go, well, it's not our fault. We did everything we could. The Labour leadership has to give concessions as well. One is to oppose mandatory re-selections. If there's mandatory re-selection, a lot of Labour MPs will go, well, I'm going to get re-selected anyway, I'll get kicked out, so I might as well make the leadership's life as hellish as possible. So it causes a bloody civil war as well, with very bitter selection fights in the run-up to a possible snap general election. I don't support bringing back elections for the shadow cabinet, because then, well, Jamie Corbyn would just end up with an entirely hostile shadow cabinet. That's not going to work. But I think a compromise would be allowing a section, maybe half or whatever, a third of the shadow cabinet to be elected by the Parliamentary Labour Party. So that would still allow Jamie Corbyn to put his key allies in place, but also would mean, kind of the Parliamentary Labour Party having, the confidence of its own representatives in the shadow cabinet. There needs to be conciliation with Tom Watson. He's the elected deputy leader, obviously, the Labour Party. Lots of people I know are very angry with him, but there needs to be some attempt now to bring him back on board and to establish good working relations.
Seamus, I'm not sure this is a great idea, is it?
Media strategy. Now, the media strategy has actually improved quite noticeably during the leadership campaign, and that is, getting key interventions on key issues at the right time, having key messages you stick to. That has to continue now after the leadership election. It means not retreating to a social media bubble. Most people get their news, put on the TV, listen to the radio for a bit, and that's how they get a lot of their information. So there has to be a clear strategy, key policies, repeated over and over again, with key interventions, so people go, that's what Labour stands for, and this is how they're going to stand up for people like me. Older people, absolutely critical. In the last general election, the Conservatives had a whopping lead with people over 65, and about 80% of them voted. Labour's polling with older people at the moment is calamitous. It just is. It's just a fact. And we have an ageing population. Thankfully, more people are living older. And that means we need policies that focus on older people. There's lots of things we can say. The lack of social care in this country is terrible. People work for years. They should have a dignified retirement, but they don't. Loneliness, isolation, that's a big problem for lots of older people. So I think like a national companionship scheme, for example. In the Netherlands, they have a scheme where students get free accommodation for spending several hours each week looking after older people. We need to talk about things like that, and they have to be front and central, because unless more older people are won over, then Labour just going to lose really, really badly. Self-employment. It's predicted there'll be more self-employed people in the next few years than public sector workers. Now, self-employed people often like being self-employed, but they don't often like the insecurity that comes with it. That means talking about the lack of social security, paid sick leave, paid maternity leave, often can't get loans from banks, often can't get mortgages. There's terrible infrastructure, not least Wi-Fi in this country. You know, if you're self-employed, you like to work on your computer, wherever you are. These are all issues Labour could come up with great, compelling answers for, and that's, I think, has to be absolutely critical as well.
Keep Corbyn, keep Corbyn, keep Corbyn, keep.
The membership. There's a huge Labour Party membership now. It's the biggest political party in Europe, as far as I know now, and that has huge potential. But it is potential unless it's mobilised to go into communities. So, you know, lots of people turn up to rallies, and that's great. I love a rally, love a protest. That is very important, of course it is. But also it needs people to go and knock on doors and talk to people and try and win them over and be persuasive. And that means training up the membership in order to do that. Housing. There should be a three-pronged attack there. That's building council housing, that's regulating the private rented sector, and it's dealing with the fall of home ownership. Things like getting rid of stamp duty and favouring a land value tax, for example. There's, which Jeremy Corbyn has spoken about, including my interview, local authority mortgages. But that has to be emphasised. I think people know Labour want to build more council housing. I think that's kind of done. But, you know, it's about going outside the comfort zone and talking about things that you don't expect. Economic policies. I think now we're getting some very clear economic policies coming out, and they need to be framed in a way which, you know, means repeating over and over again key messages. The party of investment, the party of growth, the party of opportunity, backed up with the ideas that are coming out in terms of regional investment banks, hundreds of billions of pounds made available for infrastructure, which will inject demand into the economy, rebalancing the economy away from the southeast to the rest of the country. We can't kid ourselves. The polling at the moment is really, really bad, and all the precedents show that if that continues, then Labour will face a terrible election defeat, and my worry is that the left will be blamed for that. So that means addressing those key weaknesses, you know, in terms of whether it be older people, self-employed people, having a clear vision and strategy that can appeal to the majority. So I want to hear your thoughts. What can Labour do? What can Jeremy Corbyn's leadership do? I'm going to ask Keir. Keir, have you got any suggestions you want to throw into the mix? Insightful as ever. But I want to hear your thoughts. Leave them in the comment box. There should be a thriving discussion. How can Labour at least avoid a terrible defeat, and how can the left present its arguments in a way that resonates with the majority? So I want to hear what you think, your thoughts. Maybe you think I've called the Labour leadership wrong. There'll be lots of ha 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 if I have. But as ever, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.